Hello, I'm Kimmy Cruz. Welcome to Fight the Power. This is the first video I'm posting on this new channel, so please give it a chance. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. I'm here to speak about democracy, current events, history, freedom of speech, and above all, unifying in the face of certain evil. As you all know, the world is in crisis, and I mean crisis. Anyone who's paid attention to the news lately, I'm sure, is depressed as fuck, because I am too. Life is a series of weeping and then surviving in between the rounds of weeping at this point for anyone with a conscience. Some not so cool stuff has been happening in the good old US of A lately, and I'm here to talk about that too today, so let's get right into it. Our first constitutional right, freedom of speech. There can be no democracy without. This simply means the protests that are happening lately, all across this nation and world even, are not terrorist attacks as they have been labeled by law under this administration. For those of you who haven't been paying attention very closely lately, as I have been, a new law was squeaked through under the radar that now identifies people like me, people like you, as terrorists against our own nation. And our president, that guy that stole the election, goes around claiming the opposite. It's been done to him. Everything that Donald Jr., Trump, whatever his name is, says is a lie. It's something, when he accuses other people of doing something so evil, the list shows that he actually commits those things himself. So it's typical projection, typical narcissism, typical lack of any accountability. But the point I'm trying to make is he has made it illegal to disagree with him on a spiritual level, or out loud, or on social media. If you've ever been anti-Christian, un-American, sympathized with the illegal immigrants, or had any strong views about sex and race, you are on this list now. Firing all those people in the FBI, thousands of them, that'll take 14 years to replace all those positions. There's a reason he did that too. The Supreme Court is in the president's pocket, meaning the system of checks and balances is moot. And we are no longer living in a democracy in this country. So it is important that we understand our rights. Freedom of speech was the First Amendment for a very, very, very valid reason. I might not have agreed with the forefathers, the founding fathers of this country, but it is the law we've always abided by that was written originally, that we can all at least agree upon one thing: freedom of speech. Now that Second Amendment is still up for debate. What with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people shooting every year in our country, that is a serious problem that could be addressed quite easily. But the First Amendment, freedom of speech, except for hate speech, very important. And here's why. Think of North Korea. If you do not keep a portrait of Kim Jong-un and his father and his grandfather up in your house, the government has all rights to burn your house to the ground and send your entire family to a prison work camp, among other things. But you may earn your way back out of the prison work camp, but most likely you will work there until you die for bringing dishonor to your family and to your nation by being a traitor to your government by law. They do not care what you have to think in North Korea. They do not want to know. Unless you present yourself as having nothing but the deepest, most sincere emotions for the dictator there, Kim Jong-un, you are declared treasonous and you can be shot, killed, tortured, made to work as a slave to the rest of your days, any number of things, really. And I bring up North Korea because it is a prison state. It's been widely recognized as a prison state for decades. And what is occurring in the US right now is also a prison state. Think about it. Build the wall. That was Trump's first platform, wasn't it? How we didn't see this coming is beyond me. Because he's been espousing bigotry for decades too, as well. And taking credit for 9/11 somehow in the speech at the Navy officers. We're living in crazy times, aren't we? We're living in times where there's a party of people that believe in cheering for brutality, murder, bloodthirst. They have trained their own party to be so viciously hateful that they would love to see anybody whose state voted the wrong way to have their jobs and their money and their food squeezed out of them until they starve to death. This is absolutely true and verifiable. Go Google it if you don't believe me. Because Trump is doing that right now. He has sent military to certain cities and told them to use our town of Chicago as training grounds for war. For war. A very beautiful city. Portland as well, by the way. Gorgeous city. Locals just know not to fucking get into trouble. There is no crime on the streets like they're claiming there is. The only crime occurring in Chicago is the unlawful deployment of ICE masked agents with no identification on them, brutally attacking and murdering our citizens day by day in increasing statistics of brutality. Babies, children, grandmothers, fathers that work hard to support their families. None are safe. A doctor is seen being pulled over and having ICE agents break his car window in while his baby is in the backseat on video saying, "Daddy, police." And he's saying, "Can't you wait 3 minutes? The mother is coming. The mother is coming. Wait 3 minutes, please. I'm working with you. Just give me 3 minutes." They shattered his window in. Another couple had a baby in a car. This one was California. Not a doctor, but a couple with a 1-month-old baby. The ICE officers obviously didn't care. They're pulled over, they're stopped, and they're talking to him through their window, but these people are terrified shitless to open the window. Because who wants to be dragged bodily out through a window, right? But they shatter the window anyway. They don't care if there's a baby in the car or a mother screaming about her baby. And it only gets worse on the south side of Chicago. I'm sure you've all heard this. Full black ops mission against a sleeping apartment building. I live in an apartment building. Everyone in my building is Mexican. Everyone across the street from me is Mexican. The racial discrimination and profiling and illegality of all this is insane. Whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty in a court of law? Wasn't that like the phrase? We had two big phrases in our country that I took for granted growing up, because this seems like ancient history now, but innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I don't agree with what you say, but I will fight to the death to defend your right to say it. That was the American way. It's always been the American way. And peaceful protests, we revolted from Britain on a protest. The very first thing we did to become a country was protest taxes from the King of England, only to have some rich people write some laws and sneak them in there in like 1913 to make us all pay income taxes. It's a scam. The whole thing is a scam. And the government only just keeps growing in power and wealth. And what Republicans originally had said they were going to do was cut government down, take money from the government and power from the government. And now that they've got their true term in their hands, that second term, the one that they're really going to show us what they want to do all along, now they can show their true colors. They're actually increasing government overreach and spending like never before. And they want to build wealth into the government and build a golden ballroom at the White House. And did you see that tacky shit that Trump did to the Oval Office? I mean, it went from like an elegant, statesmanly type of vibe, like a historical room that was still classy and modern, but very, very demure. Google a photo of Trump's Oval Office now. It looks like a Korean freaking dictator like exploded in there. It is so tacky and just trashy. I can't. It's like if somebody went from like trailer trash to mega rich in like a week, and this is how they're going to decorate now. Really bad. It's hideous. It looks like Trump is trying to make the White House his house forever. And we all know that a president is limited to 2 terms, which is 4 years each term, so 8 years total. The most extenuating circumstance ever having been a president that served 10 years. But that's not legal Now it would have to be the extenuating circumstances of a vice president taking over a presidency. Trump's days are numbered being a president, and he knows that by law he is not to retain the seat of chief of executive of the executive branch here in our country for more than 2 terms, right? Wrong. Think about it. Everything that they've been doing lately, trying to make wars happen with any country possible and within the country, is so that martial law can be declared. Martial law is wartime law. And with things like that, people like the Prime Minister of Israel have held on to being the Prime Minister of Israel for 30 years, 29 years, basically 30 years, with warmongering. Think about Hamas, that terrorist organization that Trump is now negotiating with. Hamas was powered up by Netanyahu, his little buddy in Israel. It's admitted, it's not a secret. He would send suitcases of cash and cars to this terrorist organization, building up their power so that they could help the country stay at war, so his people would need him to protect them, and that they could keep Palestine from forming a government and a country, which Palestine is a country, it is a government. Everyone in the world recognized them except for Israel and the US. Losers. I am proud to say that we are fucking losers now. Okay, I'm not proud, but I'm proud to call our administration losers, because they are. I mean, what kind of immature nonsense is this? You're supposed to be serving the people. So now, since our president no longer serves anybody but himself, it's time for a new one. It is time to invoke the 25th Amendment and impeach Donald J. Trump again. And this time, it needs to be passed by the Senate as well, and not overturned like last time. And remember this. 1 year ago, I believe it was July 2024, the courts granted DJT criminal immunity for acts done for the presidency. Not for anything else, but anything done under the guise of him being a president, he has criminal immunity now. So he wants to incite real wars within and without of our nation, so he can declare martial law and extend his term as president unlawfully long, possibly forever, and continuously change the laws until everything that he does legally just escalates more and more and more until we don't realize that none of us are free in any capacity anymore. This does not stop at Irish immigrants, Nigerian immigrants, Mexican immigrants, my ass being born in the wrong place. It doesn't stop there, because if you're not Christian enough, first they'll get you. So say goodbye to every other religion in our country. We're all going to be screwed next. And then, of course, you're still not safe just for being white, because white supremacy only covers white supremacists that bow to the powers that be. Not for white people that actually love all of the colors and diversity and want to stand up and fight. That is why we're being declared terrorists, so that anyone who protests can now just be called a terrorist and be jailed and silenced and killed and stopped from stopping the regime. What I heard our president say at the UN, and then I listened to other countries' leaders speak, because that's what you should do. President of Slovenia, calling for peace in Gaza, calling for sanctions to end this to end the sanctions that prevents the UN from fulfilling their duties to help and complete providing aid and basic human services to those in need. And people like Prime Minister of Israel, President of the United States, are firmly standing in the way of the United Nations' entire purpose. So the president of Slovenia, Nataša Pirc-Musar, very eloquently and impassioned, gave a very stirring, well thought out, intelligent speech based on the need for human rights and consideration for others, and not a search for power for one selfish or few selfish individuals. That was the speech she gave at the UN, and then our president of the United States went up there and complained, and his teleprompter didn't work, so he didn't have a speech prepared on hand. He didn't practice anything, he didn't work it out, he didn't memorize anything. He doesn't care. He's just a blowhard who's used to yes men applauding every time he farts. So when farts come out of his mouth, he expects applause. That's why when he went to speak to the military last week, one of his first comments was, "I'm not used to walking into such a silent room." It's called professionalism. Having everyone around you be a yes man is actually the worst thing possible for any human being. It is almost like those women that'll design an AI to just agree with whatever they say. And there was one that taught her AI, coded it to believe she was God. So it would refer to her as the Oracle and just reconfirm everything she already was going to believe. No one can grow from that. You need someone who is going to tell you when you're wrong and keep you in check, which brings me to my next point. In the United States democracy that we have here, anyone from elementary school grades could teach you this. We have a 3-branch system of government, yes? Executive branch, Mr. President. Sorry, executive branch. Judicial branch, Supreme Court judges that are now in the president's pocket, right? And legislative, the lawmakers, Congress, the Senate, the people. The 3 branches are supposed to be able to have a system of checks and balances to keep each of the other branches in check, so that no one branch can take all the power and become authoritarian overall, which is exactly what's happened here, because somehow DJT was able to put enough money and incentive or fear in the hearts of all the Supreme Court judges so that now when federal judges all across the land deem what he is doing illegal, it just gets escalated when he appeals to the Supreme Court. And now every decision the Supreme Court makes is in Donald Trump's favor, which is the worst thing for any country. I repeat, this is the worst thing for any country, to have a power-mad, blowhard tyrant narcissist spiraling out of control with no one left to check him. And the few Democrats that we do have that are trying to speak up and say something, it's almost like it seems like it's too little and it's too late. And now nothing short of millions and millions and millions of people ceasing all spending, unless it's, I guess, bare minimum food essentials, please, toilet paper and food and water. That's all we're allowed to buy right now. Because it's Trump's rich friends and him making all the money from this. He is creating a huge deficit, lying to his followers, saying how much he's bringing in. And then when he states ridiculous things like, we've brought in $17 trillion, speaking to 800 of the highest ranked military generals in our country from all over the world, the next day it goes to show that everyone's asking, so where is it then, Mr. President? Because it's not on the books. $17 trillion to the U.S.? You meant in your pocket, but with your dementia going on, you're just slipping out. You made trillions of dollars off of us through shady deals. And that's what the American people and the world have been noticing for years now. Some of us were a little delayed to wake up. I myself have been biting my tongue till it was bloody because of the family I lived under. I identified as a Christian woman. I no longer can say that with any certainty or pride, because it is a cult, a MAGA cult now. Whatever Christianity used to be has become a cult now again, and it's for Donald J. Trump here. And racism, bigotry, genocide, sexism, repealing women's right to vote has been on the agenda of many of these politicians, these Trump supporters. Trump himself made the country mourn the death of a man who publicly espoused hatred and bigotry and disbelief in women being raped. Women don't get raped if they've had a drink or two in them. That's not fair. My best friend, who I was maid of honor for, deeply Christian woman, very good woman in the South. She lives in the South, and I almost lost her over men I don't know. Jimmy Kimmel getting yanked off the air, never watched him. Charlie Kirk getting shot. Okay. There's a mass shooting every other fucking day in this country. Nobody is crying for the children. No one is taking away these guns from the children, from these crazy people that are just... It's not about left and right when these mass shootings occur. The mass shooters are mentally ill. Period. It's not a debate about politics when it's a mass shooting. It's why are we so broken, mentally ill, and why do we still have guns when there's so many mentally ill people? And it used to be the right-wingers that would be like... that would make me think... That makes sense. You don't want the government to take all the guns. In case the government ever tries to overthrow us and become totalitarian, then we still have the backup plan. That's what's been ingrained in our heads in this country for all of our lives, and it's not true. It's absolutely not true. And the proof is because what's happening right now is a totalitarian dictatorship takeover of the government. It's an autocracy now. Unofficially, but officially it is. When no one else can stand to have checks to check the president and keep him under control from spiraling out of money hungry, power hungry chodiness. He's a chode. I was going somewhere with this. I guess the point I'm trying to make is this. Together, with millions and millions of us standing up, speaking out, not shrinking, but uniting, we can do the same thing that has been done over and over and over again throughout history. We can rise up and topple an unrighteous regime. The question is, how many more lives have to perish first? Thank you for your time. This is Kimmy Cruz speaking. I'll see you tomorrow.